Yeah, 50 years later, the Buffalo Springfields still have it right. Something's happening here, and what it is ain't exactly clear. And Retake Our Democracy and its radio show and its blog and its Zoominars and its statewide alert system tries to help you keep informed so that you can do something about what's going on. Hello, this is Retake Our Democracy, a 30-minute radio show that airs every Saturday morning at 8:30 a.m. And this is our first show of 2021.
Yay.
Praise be. And today I am happy to have with me as my co-host.
Hi, everybody. This is Roxanne Barber. I'm the co-founder of Retake Our Democracy, and today the co-host of the radio show.
Before we get started, I wanted to acknowledge that the show is being recorded on Tewa land, stolen Tewa land, and we want to acknowledge that and also thank the Tewa people for being such great stewards of that land and actually modeling for all of us the kind of relationship to the earth that we are going to all have to embrace if we want to have a shot at sustaining life here on this planet. So thank you to those people, and that's something we are doing on all our radio shows now. Before we get, today Roxanne and I will be welcoming in the new year, basically. We want to talk a little bit about, not so much the things that brought us down during 2020, because there's plenty of those and we write a lot about it, but about some of the things that actually happened that are good.
The silver linings, so to speak.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to find a silver lining in this playbook, but there were some things for which we're grateful, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We're also going to look into the future and talk about the 2021 legislative session and maybe a little bit about what we might expect from Washington, D.C. In 2021. And I can only imagine that it's going to be better. So I want to remind you that last week I spoke with Sarisha Mann. She's the executive director of the New Mexico Center for Law and Poverty. And it was a very interesting show. I hadn't realized the various ways in which the Center on Law and Poverty is involved in the fight for justice and how deeply they're involved. And we discussed that. And what was interesting was the ways in which Sarisha really zeroed in on the systemic issue of systemic racism and how it is the underlying factor in all kinds of forms of injustice in New Mexico, ranging from early childhood and K-12 education to our economic structures and our education system. And the ways in which she connected the dots were quite compelling. And so you can check that out at retakeourdemocracy.org at the and hover over the actions and events menu, and you'll get to Retake Conversations. And if you're driving around town today and don't catch all of this show and want to hear the rest of it when you get home, it will be posted also there, usually by about 10 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier.
Where you can not only hear, but see.
Yeah,
because it's a Zoom recording as well.
You're seeing us. So that's about all I want to say about our announcements and stuff. We'll be back next week. Not sure who we'll be talking with. I'm hoping to speak with someone about private prisons in New Mexico and criminal justice reform.
But on to today's show.
On to today's show, I want to acknowledge the obvious. This is the first show of 2021, so we have said goodbye to 2020. Actually, we're recording it on Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday morning. And so it's still December 30th. So we still have 2020 here, but we're going to pretend we don't. Easier said than done, but
we're happy to do it.
We're happy to do it. And Roxanne and I are planning to, on New Year's Eve, rather than popping a cork, we're going to burn a calendar and say goodbye. Good riddance. So, you know, we're acknowledging that the having a silver lining is kind of a tough thing when the cloud was so bleak this whole year. But we did find some things. And Roxanne, you were going to start. What were did you appreciate?
Well, I think we learned a lot, all of us did this year, under these special circumstances. And one of the things that I think many of us noticed is how much we need each other. I mean, I think we knew that before, but wow, did it, hit home during this pandemic, how connected we all are. We may think we're independent, but we all need each other. We're not independent. We need all those amazing essential workers, healthcare workers, grocery store workers, I don't know, whatever.
UPS delivery people.
Yeah, auto repair, farmers, who are growing food for us. Our communities matter. And I think that is something that all of us appreciate a lot more now, how important our connections are.
Well, even the term essential worker didn't exist before this. I mean, I don't remember ever hearing it.
And, the people that so many people, they were invisible to them, which is really interesting to think about that. So anyways, thank you to all of you who play those important roles, have those jobs in our community. We appreciate you more than you could possibly know. Of course, for Paul and I, we're retired, except for the time we put in to retake our democracy, but we're pretty much retired, excuse me. And so we're very grateful that COVID hasn't affected our lives much, not in a really significant way. I mean, yes, socially and in other ways, of course, but not in any really painful ways.
We've been spared. We only, I think, know 2 people who have contracted COVID and no one who got really badly sick or anything. And,
right.
That's sheltered and lucky.
Yes. And so if you, like us, have resources and have not been much impacted economically by COVID, and if you're getting this next stimulus payment and you don't really need the money, we encourage you to donate. You're going to be listening to this. It'll be the second day of 2021, but and most people make their donations at the end of the year, but there are a lot of organizations out there that are serving people who have been very much impacted by this pandemic. And so we hope that you will use that extra money, or even if you're not getting a stimulus check, that you will be donating to some of these organizations. Locally here in Santa Fe, there's the Mutual Aid Network. And where can people find out about these?
We have a page under the resources menu. If you click on the resources menu, near the top of that page, there's a link to tithe, to our tithing page. And that we keep that reasonably current.
And that's at retakeourdemocracy.org if you're relatively new to this show. So mutual aid provides assistance to local families. Is it mostly money for food and things like
and actual service? Like volunteers can sign up. They have a nice sign up form. And when you sign up, you can identify what kinds of things you might want to do. And many people do things like pick up groceries for people and bring them to their home. People who are unable to go out of
run
their
errands,
home, run errands for them and things like that. So it's one of the really nice things that I found about 2020 was the emergence of this network. And it came out of a recognition that what Roxanne was saying, we're all connected. We need each other.
And this came out of EarthCare?
EarthCare and Yucca.
And Yucca, the youth group against climate change.
Yeah. And so just the emergence of those kinds of localized, initially informal but motivated by just the desire to help people you don't know.
Mhm.
And we had a wonderful comment on the blog from Richard Welker about his experience going to the food depot in
Santa
Fe,
another organization.
seeing a huge line of people waiting for food, and he was going to pick up some baskets of food to take to 3 families that couldn't get out.
Mhm.
And it was a really moving comment, but it really brought home how for many of us this has caused us to really cohere as a community.
Right. So mutual aid, the food depot, there's the, indigenous people can use help, not the Navajo Hopi COVID relief. Anyway, if you go to the website under resources, you'll find some suggestions for very worthy organizations who are helping people in this tough time.
Yeah, that organization raised almost $2 million. That's just a staggering amount of money.
The Navajo Hopi,
Yeah.
I said 6 million. And anyway, millions.
Who knew?
Yeah. So some of the other things that I've thought about, the silver linings, so to speak, as we said at the beginning, is it seems to me that a lot of people are sort of reconnecting with nature and appreciating being out in nature, since it's one of the safer places we can be during this pandemic. So I think that's a plus. And, we've got all these wonderful, amazing places to spend time outdoors in New Mexico. So really, really appreciating that. And just getting creative with the ways that we spend our time in general. I think this lockdown or shelter in place or whatever we call it, has forced us to be more creative about what we do with our time. And I think that's a very positive thing. And just, I just want to say, I can't wait to get vaccinated. My daughter's finishing her 3rd year of medical school. She's already had her first vaccination. She's at UC Davis Med School. We're hoping that we can get vaccinated in the next couple of months and that she'll be able to then come visit us for the first time in a year and a half.
Yeah.
For Paul's 70th birthday, which is coming up in April.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
this April, not in 2031.
You wish. Anyway, we're going to have a big party when this is all over, and you're all invited.
Yeah, I have fantasies about the bandstand, the first bandstand that we're able to have. I'll get choked up about it.
This summer, maybe.
This summer,
It'd be hard might be too soon.
Being there among our peeps and dancing to great music, it will be something wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful. We've missed you. You were going to talk about Zoom.
Oh, yeah. Well, wow, Zoom. We wish we had bought stock in Zoom about a year ago. We've been using Zoom for a while for smaller meetings. And then of course, last March when everything shut down, we went, but then we went, wait, we can still do our big meetings on Zoom. And in fact, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because now when we have meetings and Zoominars and webinars and we bring the experts in to talk to you, you don't have to be here in Santa Fe. You can tune in from anywhere in New Mexico. Well, for that matter, anywhere in the world. But basically, we're talking about the issues that are of interest and importance to New Mexicans. So that's been very successful for us, doing Zoominars and having hundreds of people tuned in for those and just learning about issues. And that's been great. So we really appreciate Zoom, and we appreciate all of you who are logging into those meetings and Zoominars.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that, because one of the other aspects of meeting by Zoom is that we've engaged more people in specific roles that were just easier to do via Zoom than coming together. We have a transformation study group. They just finished, one team just finished the first brief
Research brief.
research brief on tax reform and the role of corporations in our society. And we've got a number of others in the hopper, but we meet every other week, or the second and fourth Friday or Wednesday of the month. And, we're becoming friends. I mean, there's like 20, now there's down to about 12, because some people had COVID-related crises. These were mostly the younger people in our group who had kids that were at home school as well. And they're juggling a lot of balls. But in any case, that group has come together, and it's something I look forward to really a lot.
Right. So if people want to know more about what that is, they can read about it on the website as well, right?
Right under the resources menu there, if you hover over resources, don't click on it, but hover over it, you'll see the only item under there is a description of the Transformation Study Group. And all you have to do is write to retakeresponse@gmail.com. And I'm sure that email's in there. And if it isn't, I'll fix it when we get done with this show. And you can become a part of it. Basically, we have people working on research on specific topic areas, from housing to legal justice, racial justice, and tax reform, climate change, different areas of policy. And
transformation, what we consider transformational policy, right?
Yeah,
That's why it's the
right.
Transformation Study Group.
Good point, Roxanne. And basically the idea is that rather than keeping our minds kind of narrowly focused on the practical solutions, we want to envision some more transformative policies and legislation. And so that's what that group does. But when we meet, we largely just chat about what's going on in the world for a good half of the hour, and then otherwise talk about a particular brief or something that's being developed. And it's a 1 hour meeting. It's a great thing. And we have another 1 hour weekly, this is weekly, that occurs at 3:30 on Fridays. And that is focused on organizing our Senate district teams, which I'll talk about in just a minute.
Getting ready for the legislative session, which bills are going to begin to be introduced on Monday.
That is the day after tomorrow.
And then the session starts, what, about 2 weeks later, roughly?
Yes, the 19th.
Okay.
15 days later. So that's roughly 2 weeks.
Yeah. And then something even more exciting happens like the day after that, right?
The day after that, we're done with them. Actually, if you're listening on Saturday, then on Wednesday, the Electoral College vote will be counted in the House and the Senate, and then the game's up. And there is really no indication that anything other than mayhem in the city of Washington, thanks to the Proud Boys and our exiting president. So that will be another thing to be thankful for. It's a good way to start off, the new year.
Right. And I sort of threw a wrench in there. You were starting to tell them about the legislative advocacy groups. And there are groups of people in all of the Democratic Senate districts, our state Senate districts, who are communicating, collaborating, organizing Zoom calls with their senator to talk to them about issues in advance of the session. Some of those have already happened,
Right,
correct?
Right.
And there
I'll
are
tell a
more.
little story about that.
Yeah.
Too.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and tell them?
As Roxanne said, we've been organizing by Senate district. Actually, this strategy evolved from two observations. One came from Roxanne, that it seemed to her that legislators had largely made up their mind by the time they got to committee and knew how they were going to vote.
Got into the
And
hearings,
so,
yeah.
And so she thought we should be trying to communicate with legislators much earlier. And that was always hamstrung because if you don't have the bill, you can't really
talk to them
too specifically. But what we decided to do this year was to work with bill sponsors as they were working on bills, and advocacy groups like Voices for Children and Common Cause and so forth, and talk with them about what they see coming and then summarize that.
So we're
And
summarizing those issues rather than specific bills.
it doesn't have a number, it
No.
doesn't necessarily have
Yeah.
a title accurately,
But-
but it, the legislators understand what the Health Security Act is, they understand what tax reform is, so et cetera, public bank, Green Amendment, decriminalizing abortion, legalizing cannabis, all of these are on our transformative bill list, which is comprised of 15 bills. And so we are having conversation with senators. We've already had one, and we're setting one up with Senator Worth for the second week of January. And others are being set up as we speak by coordinators for each of these teams. And just to give you an idea of like what the purpose is, in SD 17, which is Senator Mimi Stewart's Senate district, and she is, as most of you know, the elect to be pro tem. So she's an important senator. She's got an outsized responsibility due to her being pro tem elect. And so it's an important, she carries a lot of clout in the caucus, in the Democratic Party caucus and the Senate caucus. And so we wanted to find out, where she stood on some of our bills. And
Some of the bills we support.
yeah, I always slip
We
and
always
call them
call
our
them
bills.
our bills. We did not write them.
We did not.
We only are supporting them.
And so Tiffany Stevens organized that Zoom conversation, and it was brilliantly done. And one of the things that we found was that Senator Stewart really didn't understand the Health Security Act as it's being proposed this year. And she kept talking about how she really needed to look at more accurate projections of costs. And one of the people on the call, one of her constituents, Esther Griego, is on the board of the Health Security Campaign for New Mexicans. Health Security for New Mexicans campaign.
Pretty close.
I've only been working with them for years. And apologies to Mary Feldblum. In any case, she's on the board of that organization, which is the prime mover for that bill. And they changed the bill a bit so that, because they anticipated, I think, that legislators would have that reaction. It's like, yeah, you've done all these studies, but you don't exactly know with great precision exactly how it's going to work.
It's going to play out. Yeah.
And so you can't know exactly what it's going to cost. And in a budget crisis, you really want to know that. So they restructured the bill so that voting for it isn't putting it on a nonstop track to being the Health Security Act. It's creating a board, a statewide board that will work together over the next year to completely figure out how it will work.
How to implement it.
How to implement it, how will things be paid for, what sources will be used to pay for them, what will be offered, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in doing that, they'll be able to arrive at a very precise understanding of what the cost is. And then in the next session, the Senate will be able to, and the House will be able to vote on that. And they'll know what they're voting on.
So the point was that.
I'm getting to it.
Okay.
Circuitous little path here. And the point is that Esther heard this, and rather than calling the senator on it and embarrassing her and say, well, actually, she just made a note, and then quietly they got back to her to give her the information about what the bill actually stated, and that its express purpose is to address Senator Stewart's concern that we really need to know exactly how this is going to play out. And so that's what we're trying to do with these conversations. We want to identify where our weak spots are and where we have legislators who either don't understand a bill or are strongly in support of it. If they're strongly in support of a bill, then we want to work with them so that they can use their influence in the caucus to engage other senators and House reps to do similar
Yeah.
to support the bill. You were going to say
Yeah,
something.
well, I was just going to say, this points to something that we've learned over the last few years, working with the legislative session, is that our legislators don't always know much about the bills that they're voting on. I mean, they have no staff, basically. They're unpaid. They're only meeting 1 month or 2 months out of the year. Well, there are interim hearings and things, of course, but so they need people, residents across the state, to help educate them on the issues. We shouldn't assume that they know a lot on all these issues. No, they need people to talk to them and bring them up to speed on various issues. So, and a lot of them appreciate that, I think. I mean, we've heard that they appreciate.
Yeah. I'm a little late with this, as always. I want to remind our listeners that they're listening to Retake Our Democracy, a 30-minute radio show that airs on KSFR 101.1 FM, your public radio station. And they don't operate, let's put it this way, while a bunch of volunteers like Roxanne and I do the shows, or most of the shows, they have engineers and equipment and other things that cost serious money. And they need your donations. So again, it's after the first of the year. So you can start your tax year off with a bang by making a donation to KSFR. Go to ksfr.org, click on the donate button and send them 10, 20 bucks, 50 bucks, and just view it as your ticket for admission to a wide range of great television. Okay.
Radio. Yes.
Before we wind down, there was one other thing that I was grateful for, and I'm sure Roxanne would agree, and that is the June primaries in New Mexico. And hordes of people from across 8 organizations, from Indivisibles, Nasty Women, Taos United, Working Families Party, Our Revolution, the myriad of Indivisibles throughout the state, and of course, Retake Our Democracy, PDA, Adelante, Progressive Caucus, don't want to leave people out. All of these groups worked in different ways to support candidates who then ousted 5 Senate dinos, Democrats in name only. And because of that, we've got a half-ass shot at getting some really good bills passed in 2021.
Not half-ass.
Full-assed. We got the full.
A pretty good shot at getting some things passed that have been blocked for the last several years. So thank goodness.
You want to have a little closing remark? And I have one too.
Yeah, well,
we're almost out of time.
You know, I hate to keep using cliches, but you know, it feels like somebody wrote this to you recently. You don't remember who it was, right? Oh, that 2021 feels like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And for the first time in years, it's not a train coming directly at us. You know, it does. I think we're very hopeful because of the new presidency. That's a big relief. But we're hopeful for the vaccine. And I just think, I was going to say, it's funny, well, you can't see this on the radio, but right behind us on the video, if you go to the website and you're watching it there, is one of our Zozobra posters, which seems really appropriate for this first.
Good observation.
Yeah, you know, get rid of your troubles, burn them up, starting a new year. You know, we wish you all the best in 2021.
And I just want to close by saying, you know, there's a really natural urge to get back to what we considered normal, because what we've experienced for the last 4 years and then in spades in the last year is so horrible that the desire to return to normal is a natural thing. But I think we have to recognize that the normal that we are aspiring to return to wasn't doing us very well. And so we have to ask for more. And I think we've learned by working together that we can get more. And so I just encourage all of you, you will have had a New Year's Eve, but let's start off this year. Let's get engaged in our legislative process. It's not too late for you to do something for the state of Georgia runoff, and just stay safe stay healthy, and most of all, stay engaged. It's the only way we fix this mess. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Happy
Thanks.
New Year.
Happy New Year.